I'm Troy Wicks. I'm the Associate Director of Coatings for North America and Canada. I'm joined by
Eli. I'm a technical sales rep out of the Pacific Northwest, based out of Oregon.
You're welcome. So what Eli was talking about is, you usually want to do this the night before, because what will happen is as the pigments are shipped, they will get little BBs of color. And just going to place it with a 9-inch roller.
So normally on a large floor, you would use a squeegee or a magic trowel or a flat trowel to move this across the floor before you use your roller. This being a small board, we're just going to go ahead and push it around with our roller. On a floor, you're going to put this down between 80 and 100 feet a gallon. We have already primed this floor with black. Good.
One of the wrong ways is to use a roller that doesn't want to roll.
Yes.
And really, you're looking to just get it spread over the entire surface. So what we're actually using right now is our XPL polyaspartic, and we chose that for a couple reasons. We want it to dry right away, so we don't have to worry about it running off the board and making a mess after we're done, because epoxies are going to run a lot longer. So it's the XPL that's on here right now. As you can see, Eli's going to, it gives you enough time compared to some of the other polyaspartics that won't allow you to move them around. So we can also use this in our solvent borne, but this is the extended pot life, the XPL polyaspartic.
One of the methods I like to use after moving it everywhere is just the random figure 8. It gives you a nice marble look across the floor. And this being a polyaspartic, you'd want to do your pattern like this and then just let it be so it can lay out. One of the other methods that you can use to create some extra effect is splatter some acetone or xylene across the surface. It gives you that moon crater effect that everybody looks for. And you can do it use as much or as little as you want, depending on the effect that you're looking for. I use quite a bit there. Sprinkles a little bit.
So this is what's kind of nice about that. It's a single color, but yet you're going to get a lot of multicolors out of it. We try and recommend, at least for the new guys a lot, to use the acetone throw, just because sometimes you end up with some ugly stuff that you don't really like, and that acetone will help really make a difference in dispersing any weird lines or ugly lines you actually have. So it makes it kind of nice that way. And as you'll see, as you just watch this, it's slowly working its way out. It gives you a really nice modeling effect. Lots of times when we're talking to people about doing this or getting into this, sometimes people they buy a whole bunch of product, take it home, they lay it out on their shop, either their shop floor or on top of their countertop, and they make all these samples. And then they'll go to a home show, or they take them to a customer and they'll show them these samples. And what will happen is you've made these samples on these perfect floors, so they're nice and flat and level. And what's happened is you've actually replicated something that really isn't going to be exactly what you're going to see in the field. So I try and always recommend that if you're going to do, especially a garage floor or something you know that has fall, throw a sheet of plastic down, let them pick the colors, mix them all together, do a small sample for them. So if it's on a little bit of a drift, they're going to see that drift in the sample. I've had too many customers and installers call me and go, man, I had this really, really nice cobalt sample. They signed off on it. They loved it. We went into the garage, got it all down, and it looks like it's leaning towards the garage door. Well, that's just gravity taking its effect. So always make sure that if you have a floor that has slope, that you replicate those samples on the floor that has slope. And that way you're not surprised. You're going to get paid, and your customer's not surprised either. So anything that has slope, you're going to get a little bit of movement. So one of the reasons we're using, I also like to use our XPL, is it doesn't drift as long. So a product that's going to dry in 3 to 4 hours isn't going to have as much movement as an epoxy that's actually going to drift for the next 6 to 8 hours pretty well, and sometimes drift right out the door and onto the driveway. So keeping that in mind, it just makes a big difference for you. Have those samples correct and picking the right product. So Eli, what are you ready to do?
Yeah. So the next board that we're going to show you is using 2 different colors. And there's a lot of different methods to do this. This one here, I'm going to use a chrome base, one of my favorite colors. And you're going to spread this and lay it out just like I did on the other one. And then we're going to let it sit for a minute and add our second color. Well, at least this roller kind of rolls.
There you go. That's a nice roller. So let's see if you can keep it all on the board today. So one of the other things that we'll do is, so Eli's going to pour out two colors next to each other or within one another. There's also times where we'll actually mix the powder together. So like we'll do a cobalt blue and put a deep cherry in with it. And so it'll give you kind of a different tone, especially if you're going to use the acetone or xylene on top of it. You'll end up with some really, really funky halos and some really cool, unique things that you're not going to get when you blend two colors. The other thing we really worry about, or I always want to keep people in mind, is when you're going to blend two colors, don't overwork it, because otherwise what you actually end up with is three colors or just a color now that you've got a big mess of just, instead of letting your colors segregate. And we'll show you that. And on this one, normally let it sit for a little bit longer, but I'm just going to place a few random circles of color. If you go back over those too soon, then you will lose this color in your base color. This one I put on top is Arctic ice. And on this polyaspartic, I'd let this sit for 4 or 5 minutes probably before I went back over it again. So would you, so you've also talked about the magic trowel or squeegees. So really a squeegee is good for laying it out, but not so much for your finish work.
Right. The magic trowel you could use basically like a flat trowel over top of an overlay, and you could run across these colors and kind of streak them together.
Speaking of a flat trowel, that one might have been glued to the floor.
Can you give it a shot?
Yeah. So just maybe trowel out just one of them. So I mean, you literally can place this however you want to. You're not a slave to what you've applied or how you've applied it. I mean, there's so many different ways of getting different looks to it. So it's kind of a fun product. So you could do this and then just let it lay out. You could hit it with the roller again on this. Are you gonna hit the side on it with the roller later? Yeah.
I'll just let it harden up a little bit.
Yeah.
Hey, Troy, I got a question for you. What were the two colors again, please?
This is chrome and Arctic ice.
Very good.
So you could just roll over it like this, or you could also do the figure eight method across this. This is still a little too fluid to do the figure eight across it. I think it would just mix them together.
So you can see where he's actually run through here, where the colors are still, though they're blended, you can still see a nice variation of the two. If you spend too much time with it, maybe go back down here where you've troweled and just take a section and work it in. So if you get one of your guys out there and they just keep playing with it and keep messing with it and keep messing with it over and over again, pretty soon you will actually start to lose the differentiation of the cloud effect that you get out of blending two colors. So always making sure that
Another question for you guys. Any tips for blending the colors without having them run together, like in white or pearl and black?
So we're going to do a pour at the end that will show a pouring of that way. Also, sometimes what I'll do is I'll mix those colors and I'll actually let them dwell in the pails for 10, 15 minutes so they stiffen up a little bit before I actually hit them on the floor. And then you just pour them out side by side and basically just let them run together. That's what you're going to end up doing. But you'll see that in our very last pour. We're going to be doing a blend. We'll show you how to mix it and how to blend that out. So that's a two-color system. Are you going to do some acetone on it?
I did acetone the last one.
Okay, all right. So people will call and they'll say, hey, I want to do this metallic floor. I want to do, they'll say, hey, I'm doing a man cave, perfect spot for it. That sounds great. And what happens is then you get the person that calls and says, hey, I really want to do this in my restaurant, or I want to do it in a store or some other public place. And the issues that come into that is you need to make sure you have a good traction additive to it. I call it the Better Homes and Gardens picture. So these metallics look just awesome when they're glossy and shiny. Those are the ones, the customer comes, they say, I want this right here. That's fine for residential, but when you get into the commercial or anywhere you have customers coming in, you're going to want to make sure and put traction additives in them. So make sure that when you're making samples, you make samples with traction additives, because they do matte and dim out the finish a little bit, which changes the aspect of what that metallic is going to look like. Excuse me. So that's something to always keep in mind. What is going to be the use of it? What's the function of it? And as far as who's going to be walking on it, is it going to get rain? All those aspects, things you ask yourself anyway. The next thing we're going to put together is we're going to do our cobalt blue, and we're going to run in some veins of deep cherry. These are kind of my favorite colors. I will sometimes actually take and mix the cobalt blue, put a little bit of the deep cherry powder in it, and mix it in also. And when you broadcast acetone like Eli did on the first sample, you actually end up with these really, really cool kind of reddish auras around the outside of those blends. So that's always something you can do. You'll also find, do we have any mixes that we put this in yet?
It's in the cherry. That was in the chrome.
Okay. So, there's different additives that you can put in. We play around with a lot of that different stuff. So you can take it to the next level by putting in, reflective materials or pearlescence and stuff like that. So this next one we're going to do is the cobalt blue, and then we're going to just run some ribbons of deep cherry in it. We'll kind of show you how those ribbons work. And it's right along the same lines as not overworking the color, but finding something that you like and just staying with it.
There's a first one right.
Not the roll. Did you give me the non-rolling roller? Yes. Thank you. Lodges, a lot of man caves, entertainment areas. We're seeing it more and more actually, even in like restaurants or movie theater entries. Just because now we've got some really good traction additives, so you're able to get a really nice product that isn't going to be slick. I had my own company for 22 years, 25 years, I guess. And one of the things that I always sold myself when I was doing these floors, I always sold myself as an artisan. So I got as much as I possibly could, because you're taking your talent and trying to convey that in the price. So that being said, I'll see guys that are installing this for 8 to 10. Some guys I'll see 14 to 16. It really depends on how much technical work you have to do, how hard it is to get the look that the customer's wanting. So, if you got different colors to it. So I would say anywhere in there, I mean, I've seen guys doing $24 a square foot doing this, but it's a pretty intricate design, and they're putting a lot of work into it. So I'm just going to lay this out. Set this off to the side. Sorry, I think I'm going to be a little bit in the way here. But a lot of times when you're doing the ribbons, it's a matter of just doing ribbons and not so much the technical, or you're not trying to take a measuring tape out there and make sure that everything you're doing is perfect. You kind of don't care if it's perfect. You kind of don't want it to be perfect. I mean, the whole point of this is to get a really nice random look to it. Now this one, I don't know if you can see, this has a little bit of a gold flake in it that we put in it just to kind of highlight that. You like to have a, never mind, there's one over here.
Inesta.
Yeah. So once these have been laid out, you can just leave it this way. I mean, I've seen people just leave it this way and go, oh, wow, that's awesome, I love it. You will see times where guys will work the strips. I'm going to do half of this and leave the other half. The goal being is you kind of want to follow what you've done so that you're mimicking that look a little bit. And like I said, we're doing this in XPL, so it's going to set up and hold the look a little bit more than you would if you had done it with an epoxy. So it's kind of nice when you're doing decorative stuff. If you're using the XPL, because it dries sooner, it's going to let you do more things and you're going to be more sure that it's going to stay. Where some of the, like I said, some of the epoxies are going to run for 6 to 8 hours, and you may do this really cool look, and then you end up with it just blending away when you're, when you're not really able to do anything with it. So, I have the acetone. So like I said, you can leave it. I'll acetone off through the bottom of this a little bit. And I always try and do this. Like I said, I try and teach the new guys to do this, because what happens is if you have something that you don't like, it's really nice to let these craters disperse out something you may not like. So say one of your guys went back a little bit too late and did a half moon. I can't tell you how many half moons I've seen on floors. So you can actually go back and say you really dislike this line. You're able to go back and actually disperse out that line. So instead of having that really hard line, now you're actually getting it to just meld away. So doing the ribbons and stuff, it's in the eye of the beholder. You don't really, if you want to keep ribbons, you want to make sure that you don't cross roll. Sometimes guys that do a lot of floors, they always have in their mind they need to finish roll. So we try and get you to understand that do your look and then just stop and let it finish up, and that way you won't disturb what you think you're going to get. I've had guys that do the metallics and all of a sudden, and then when we did the finish roll on it, it just looked terrible. So just realize that you're not back rolling this ever for a finished look. You're basically going to leave that alone. Another thing to think about, if you have xylene available to you, you'll also notice that if you do xylene in, it gives you more craters. So instead of having these moons, you actually end up with more of a violent line, almost more of a canyon versus these round orbs. So xylene gives you a little bit different effect than you're going to get with just doing this direct. Hey, do you have some? How about some powder, like electric orange? So I'm going to just for fun, because we're standing here and we might as well try something for fun. I'll show you a little bit of. So there are times we'll just put a little bit of a pigment in with our acetone. Nicely untested. We'll try it. We'll see how we like it. Add a little bit of dry powder on there. So you can see, you can do, it's pretty endless. Taking this out of it because I had dry powder on it, but you can see can you zoom in on that? Is that possible? There you go. There you go. So, you can see by me adding electric orange, we basically use the dispersant, and now we have this really cool halos around it. So, like I said, playing around at your shop's a great idea for ideas. Just make sure if you're actually going to make a sample, make the sample on the floor, unless the floor is flat. If the floor is flat, you're fine. But if the floor has any slope to it, please, please, please make sure that you make the samples on the floor. Okay, I'm going to put that into I like that a lot.
Yeah, and Troy, that's a really good point. Could you, I've had a couple of folks ask about the entire system. Could you just walk us through the entire system real quick?
So what we've done is the boards we're working on are our Hydraband boards. So if you notice when we're applying to them, they're a little bit, they almost look sanded. And the reason they look that way is because our Hydraband boards actually have a little bit of a hair on top of them because they're for shower systems. So because they're light, we love to use them here because we can slice them up and make samples out of them with just a razor knife. So all these pieces that we're doing here, we'll cut up into actual samples. So that's why you see that kind of sanded texture to it. Excuse me. I should cough like this. There we go. So what we've done is we put down a black base on the bottom of it. You would use, since we're doing a polyaspartic on top, you could do a polyaspartic on the bottom. You could use solvent-borne in black. You could use pure in black. You could use the XPL in black. You could do our moisture vapor barrier in black, our vapor band ER in black. So all of our systems, you're going to get a black base underneath of it. Unless you're looking for a really light color or some off color where you'd want to do a dark gray or a light gray and then do a metallic on top of that, if you're doing like a custom look. If we were doing a white floor, we would do a white background and just do a ton of pearlescence on it. So the systems that you're seeing here today, we've done we've used our vapor band ER on the boards and then tinted it black. So this would be a floor that you'd put down if you had a moisture issue, or if you just needed a base that was going to dry quickly and you had vapor band ER, you could certainly use that. Then once that's done, we just let it dry hour and a half, and now we're applying the polyaspartic, which is the XPL. You can go 2. There we go. So we're using our XPL. It's a 2-to-1 mix, so it's not our traditional polyaspartic 1-to-1 mix. But I like this product because it gives you the flowability of not so much the water flowability of the solvent-borne if you've ever used our solvent-borne product. And it's certainly thicker than you're going to find in our epoxies, but it gives you the ability to actually have something that's going to move around and flow for you, but dry in 3 to 4 hours, so you could actually do one of these systems in a day. So let's say you want to do a system like this in a day, you'd use either our solvent-borne or our pure as your base, or you could use the XPL as your base in the black. Do your next coat in metallic of XPL or solvent-borne if you can. Don't ever try and do pure and metallic. I've tried it a couple times. Not that you can't be successful, but you have to have a lot of people and you have a very limited look to it. You're not going to get the clouds, the nice look. You're going to get a lot of violent movement to the floor. So once you've done that, then you'll just top coat it. And like I said, if you're in any type of a commercial use, I would make sure and add a traction additive to it. So our next one, what are we doing next?
Sorry, one other quick question. If you feel like you've overworked the metallic, can you do anything to fix it or recoat it? Or what would you do if whatever you did, you ended up not liking it? Or the owner did not?
Yeah, so realize this, I'm gonna talk about my age here. So back in the day, when we were doing metallics, we would do a metallic base coat, and then we would wait and do, when that dried, then we actually did a second metallic base coat on it. So really, if your color's correct, you just hate what it looks like, you can, I would come in, I would lightly sand it, make sure you have a good bond to it, acetone wipe it very well, get all the dust and stuff off of it, and then I just reapply the color that you wanted on top of that. So if it was a different color, if you were off on color, if that was the problem, I'd do black and then start over on top of it. But these are very thin mill systems, so you're not going to end up 80 mils or too thick. So yeah, you could just reapply over the top of it. And generally, if it's, say you've done cobalt blue, and for some weird reason the guys walked back out and tried to do something and they ended up with just a bunch of snakes on the floor, you could sand that, acetone wipe it, put cobalt blue back over the top of it, and it's going to have a really, really nice, rich look to it. So yeah, that would be the simple way of fixing that. So right now we're gonna do something a little bit off the wall. So I'm gonna do a combination of cobalt blue, and we're going to use some of our quartz sand. We've done it a couple times for different looks in different restaurants and stuff. We call it the beach look. You can do a lot of different things, but this just seems to be the one that a lot of people go, oh man, how do you do that? So we've gotten one that we started yesterday that we will slide in here in a second. But first we're going to show you what we've done and why we're doing it, and kind of explain how it's coming together. So we'll start off with cobalt blue again. I'm going to make sure this is centered here.
And Troy, another question, the total thickness of this metallic system typically in mills?
Can you hand me that cobalt blue roller again when you're done? So depending on how thick you've left it, it's going to be from bottom to top. maybe 30 mils, 30 plus. It depends on how thick you've left that middle coat. So yeah, it could be anywhere in there. It could be as thin as under 20. I will tell you this though, if you try and do a metallic at 10 mils, you're going to see color, but you're going to see a lot of the black base under it. You're not going to get that look that the customer's looking for. I'll guarantee you that. So be cautious when running too thin. You always have more product than you need available, especially, on the floors when you're there. Just have too much, because if it's too thin, it's like I said, if it's too thin, it's just going to look like this. You're going to see a lot of the black coming through, and it'll look like that versus having these really nice depth. So yeah, don't be shy when putting materials out to make sure you've got a really nice look. Eli is giving me, now that we're doing the beach look, Eli gave me an ocean of material. Thanks, Eli.
You're very welcome.
So basically all I'm going to do is just roll this out here. I'm going to shove all this down towards him because I don't want it. All right, let me take that.
Troy, question. I just got in the feed. Is there any, what applications would you not want to use epoxies for metallic?
Not use epoxies for metallic.
Yeah.
If I had a floor that had a lot of slope to it, I wouldn't want to do that because the epoxy are going to run a lot. I've actually personally done floors that I thought was going to be okay, but the epoxy ran so much from a high part of the floor that I ended up with a lot of the black base showing through. And so that's usually where I'll highly sloped, or if you're just trying to get a faster floor, then the epoxies aren't going to get you there, or something that's going to see a lot of sunlight, because sometimes we'll do these in sunrooms and stuff, which is awesome. The problem is that the sunlight and epoxies don't get along very well. So all I'm doing right now is this is our marine quartz sand, and I'm just seeding it in to kind of give me a base for what I'm going to call the beach look. And there's no rhyme or reason as far as how you're doing it. I mean, you can put an island out in the middle of it if you want to. And then I'll usually take a little bit of this, so you can kind of see how I have a little bit of shoal going there. And sometimes we'll just seed some areas to make it have a little bit more character going on. And we'll actually, so that was cobalt blue was the base color, and this is from Arctic ice. Arctic ice. Sometimes we'll use the Arctic ice along the edge to kind of bring in a little bit of a different color. And like I said, this isn't one of those things where there's a sure way of doing this, but I'll tell you what, you do this type of work and you're going to get 24, you're going to get $30 a foot doing this type of stuff. And so people will, this is one of the things that I always tell guys when they are doing home shows and stuff. Don't show chip floors and quartz floors at home shows. If you want to make top dollar, show metallic stuff, because it'll just draw people into your booth, in your office. Make sure you have lots of metallic samples around, lots of really cool stuff, because people think if you can do this, if you can give me this look, I'm so excited about that, I'll pay you $20 a foot to come do chip, not $20 a foot to do chip, but I'll pay you $1 more to go do a chip or a basic installation than I will the next guy. So hanging, chips and quartz don't actually draw a lot of people in. We're doing some artistic stuff. Like I said, not that people are going to buy this every time, but this is the type of thing that differentiates you from everybody else. So when a customer comes in, you don't see this very well. By the way, keep going. Sorry. Oh, you backed out. Okay. Sorry. Little technical thoughts. So basically, cobalt blue, marine, and now we're going to swap this out. Let's pull this out of here. And then we're going to swap in the one that I started yesterday. Nope, pull that out. pretend like I'm pulling the apple pie out of the oven right now. So this is one I started yesterday. And then you're making the clear and a chip brush. I just got this one dirty, sorry. So now that we're done, we'll actually take a clear. Can you go out more? Any more? Is that it? Nope, back the other way. There you go.
You want to give me my clear back?
Oh. And so the trick is, what this is representing right at this very edge out here is the water. Hang on a second before you start. And so what you're going to do is you're just going to take your brush. I'm going to zoom in. We're getting better. There we go. So you're going to take your brush and you're actually going to do this clear, and you're going to kind of do it a little bit random, because the next sand that we put down is only going to dry where you've put the clear. And so actually the beach head is what you're doing back here. So you don't want to just follow right along the edge. And then like on these shoals and stuff, I'll just dab right in the middle. And so, go ahead when you're ready. If you're not. And then everything behind that, we're going to go ahead and put clear down. Did you already hand me those things?
It's right here.
Okay. And I'm not going to do it. You don't have to watch paint this whole thing out. I'm just going to do a section right here, and you guys can take a look at it. So like I said, these are the types of things that I did when I was in business that differentiated me from the competition. I knew I wasn't going to sell a bunch of this. I certainly did sell a fair bit of it, but it kept the other part of the business, the basic stuff, kept me busy doing that, because people, if they'll hire you just based on the thought that, wow, you can do all these things so well, you're obviously going to do a great job on my project. So what we've done is, now that I put down the clear, when we broadcast the sand over the top of it, that sand is only going to stick to the clear that we've put down on it. So you can willy-nilly put it all over the place if you wanted to.
Troy, we had a question. What did you use for the silver? Is that your aggregate?
Yeah, oh, the silver that's in. Yeah, so I used Arctic Ice was the silver that I put in.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. And you'll see, I did the silver in some of these other areas on this piece too. All right, let's just do this and then we'll tilt it up. So what's nice about this is, because we've done the clear, the sand aggregate's only going to stick to where we've put it. So we're not really worried about having to get it. I mean, we can get it everywhere we want to. I've done this on big floors. It's even easier on a big floor than it is on a small floor. And then basically, I'm going to cheat. This is my favorite. This is where somebody in the crowd goes, well, yeah, if you can just pick up the floor and tilt it. But anyway.
Yes, and that snarky comment. And Troy, you just showed off HBB. You want to talk really quick about what you put that on Hydraband, the Hydraband board? Yeah, so the Hydraband board, this is actually, what's nice about this is a 1/2-inch board. So we have it in 1/4-inch board. And I'm telling you, if you're making samples, this stuff's awesome because it doesn't weigh anything. And we'll just basically score it on the back with a knife, snap it, and then cut it with that same razor knife. And it's really, really easy to make samples on. I mean, it's so nice because if you're mailing them or if you're carrying them around, it's super easy to work with the Hydraband board. But that's kind of the beach look, and that's like, so then this would actually get a clear coat over the whole thing. So they'd have more of a glossy look over the top of the sand. But like I said,
it's just something that to seed your mind into thinking about what different combinations of things can I do. You know, I mean, I've done these where you actually broadcast a metallic flake into it, or the glitter, or different, like I said, different broadcasts, different sands, different quartzes. You know, the black quartz is really cool to do a lot of stuff with. So the whole point of that, so the you know, basically coming back to metallics are whatever you want them to be. They're really kind of whatever you want to make them be for you. I know some guys, it's all they do. That's their focus. You know, they do really precise work. They spend a lot of time honing their craft. There's lots of guys I see on the internet that are fabulous. I mean, unbelievable artisans when it comes to the metallics. And so learning how they work, learning how the epoxy is going to run compared to a polyaspartic, how that's going to run, what you have as far as weather situations or slope in the floor. Once you've deciphered all that and you get really proficient, what's nice about that is now you're able to actually sell samples that the floors look just like the samples. And that's the hardest part. When you're first getting into this, it's really managing customer expectations. And I'll tell you that over and over and over again. Please undersell, undersell, undersell. If they pull a bunch of pictures off the internet and they go, I want it to look just like this, you need to really, really realign their thinking, because it's never going to look just like this. If they want it to look just like this, ask them to buy that home or that business or that restaurant, because that's the only place that looks just like this. And I used to tell my crew, take the Better Homes and Garden picture. And what that is as soon as you set down the roller from finishing the finish, snap a picture, because it's never going to look that way perfect again. So if a customer is giving you, I want to look just like this, or if you make a sample and they like an area of the sample and not the whole sample, really, really educate them that they're going to get all of it. They're going to have areas they love, they're going to have areas they hate, but educate them that this is a one-of-a-kind thing. If I hired Picasso to do their family portrait on July 1st, and they hired him to come do it on September 1st using all the same products, they would look different. So there's no known way of actually replicating the highs and the lows perfectly. As you refine your craft, you're certainly going to get better at that, but you're never going to find yourself in a position where it's perfect every single time. So Eli's getting ready for us to do our multiple pour, and I think we started off with that, Jeff. Somebody had a question about how do you pour things together, and I've seen a couple of companies online doing it, and so I thought, well, I'll just show you kind of the basics of it and what you're trying to accomplish, and we'll pour it out and see what it looks like. Sometimes it looks great, and sometimes you're like, we need to try different colors. What colors did we end up with?
We're going to do electric orange, Spanish gold, chrome, and cobalt.
So that's going to be interesting. I did this at a training in Winnipeg. I'm pretty sure Garage Masters is in Winnipeg. And we poured it out, looked really cool, and then we actually struck it off with a roller, and maybe we'll strike this off with a roller too. And it looked like something out of this universe. And I mean, seriously, it looked like a comet. It was really cool. So as soon as he's ready, we're going to jump on that. Jeff, any other questions before we move on?
Oh, let's see here, Troy.
Okay. Let's talk about substrates, because that's always, somebody's always asking about that. You know, can we go on top of wood,
Right.
vertical? This is never for vertical a wall system, because it wants to run. We did a big food court system in Honolulu where we actually did the floor did on the floor, and then they put them on the wall. It's really, really cool. Komori Painting did it. It's just a beautiful, beautiful look. So if you want to do some wall panels, that's the only way you're going to get metallics on any type of a wall system. Wood, we don't recommend going over wood. We do have some systems that we go over wood with, and so those are one-offs. Generally, we'll talk about it, help you walk through it, make sure that the floor is rigid enough and that you have the system to actually do that. But really, we're always wanting to go on to concrete, and we really want clean concrete. You're going to want clean concrete. I was on a phone call with somebody today, and basically they were like, well, we know it's epoxy. We don't know whose it is. We don't know how old it is. It seems to be in good shape. Can we just bond to that? I don't know, maybe. We don't know enough about it. So we're always going to try and get back to clean, pure concrete before we find ourselves going on top of it with any of our products. We want to back you guys. We want to be able to tell you you're going to have success. And the only way to do that is for us to know that the prep is done right and that you've used the same products or the like products all the way through.
And Troy, could you talk really quick about how the Kamoris did hung those the wall coatings? How they did that?
So I can describe. So basically, they had a black screw that went through these panels, and it had a button that went over the top of it, kind of a round button. And what they did is they tacked, like with Elmer's glue, just tacked that button to the panel, did the entire floor, did the panel, let it dry, and then cut away the button and put the screws through the panel into the wall and put the button back over the top of the screw. It was pretty sweet. And so the panels, I don't know how to describe them. They're like a wave panel. They're like a plastic panel that has like waves and stuff to it. So it had a lot of motion. It did it all in cobalt blue. So it had this really, really cool ocean effect because the materials all ran into the bottom of those little channels. And so you had it, it was just beautiful. It was a beautiful look. So yeah, so they just ran the screws through it and then put that button over the top of it. And you really couldn't even see the button. You really had to look for it. So that was their way of running it. Okay, I think we're ready. So we'll talk a little bit about what we've got going on here. So, 2 blocks.
I wish the first one's off, like you can do another.
There we go. All right. So we're always going to start with a black base. And the trick is not to just dump them in on top of each other. That way. The goal is much more to pour it down the sides, because what you're trying to do is you're trying to keep them segregated in the pail. Eli and I a lot of times will cheat and we'll just run a funnel down in there. You can do that side. And then I'll just turn it. Like I said, the whole goal here is not to do a lot of disturbance. And if anybody wants to know their mix ratio, yes, that's the mix ratio. It's whatever you want it to be. This is going to be pretty cool. I'm liking your choices there.
Well, I'll ask you again in 5 minutes.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see in a few. Now you can see some of this is starting to come up in here. You can see the color starting to sneak up. So I'm just going to put a little bit of this blue in here. Oh yeah, this is going to be unbelievable. Oh, you want to do that too? So what we've done is we've put it in 2 separate containers so that we can get kind of a side-by-side pour we were talking about. I've overfilled this a little bit because you can see the color sneak into the top. Can I roll it your way?
Yeah, go ahead.
And then we'll go. So then the goal is I'm not even gonna want yours. No, I'm gonna leave it. I'm not even gonna mess with that. The sand has it running one direction quickly. So as you can see, when we do that pour, it gives you, see what we have going on here, and it's going to continue to keep that look going. Let me lift that up. So you don't really want to do it, as you can see it creeping off our board here, you don't really want to do it in an area where you don't have good control, and you want to make sure you don't have too much volume on the floor for what's going to happen. If we had normal walls, it wouldn't be a big deal. Since we're doing it on board, it's kind of a pain. But you can see what's happened here. Now, I could strike this off and model this color together, but I don't want to because I really kind of like it.
You want to put some of this blue and fill that in?
Yeah, we could. We could. So once again, we're back to just plain. I mean, you're kind of doing what you want to do. You'll always realize, though, that when I first poured it, you saw a lot of the black come out first. So depending on how you lay it out in the bucket and how you dump it, kind of depends on what you end up with here on the floor. So that's a mixed pour. So you could do this out of multiple ribbons, multiple applications of the same color, but I guarantee you're never going to end up with that kind of a mottled look on the floor by doing that. Only way you're going to get that really is by bringing all those colors together. Can you zoom in a little bit on all this? I hope you guys are seeing how good that color is. Jeffrey, does it look good to you?
It looks fantastic.
It's like the peacock floor.
I think you could sell that for $30 a foot all day, Troy.
All day. You're going to have to because there's a lot of material in there. So that'd be the mixed pour. So think, unless somebody has any questions, I don't think
I had one for you, Troy, that just came in, and it's a common one that we get, and that is, can these materials, can SPARTACOTE go down over tile?
Yes, we have a system that basically will build from the tile, using some of our tile side products. We also have some products at L&M that will give you a flat spot on a good working over the top tile. Yes, we can go over sheet goods too. So yeah, we're not super limited. We just want to try and stay away from wood just because of the flex of the wood. Not that we can't, but there's a certain way of doing it over the top of the wood.
Great. Yep. Let's see. Anything else?
So in the next couple weeks, we're going to do we'll do another one of these, and we get lots of questions about stuff that we don't really want to show here from the standpoint of warranty. Everything we've shown you today is a warranted thing. There's some stuff I see online that's really cool. I'm not too afraid of that. I'd like to show you guys how to do it if you want to, realizing that if you're going to use spray paints or WD-40s or certain things to get some really crazy looks, that's not going to be warranted, but there's some pretty cool things you can do out there. So keep a lookout for that, and we'll dive into some more off the wall stuff down the road.